Hi, welcome to Mr. Otter Studio. My name is McCall, and today I'm going to show you what supplies you need for stained glass. Some of you know that I worked in a stained glass studio for a little over 2 years. I absolutely loved working there. I worked with some really amazing people, and I love stained glass. I love how it can completely change how a room feels, and really fun to work with, and it's not as complicated as you would think. So these are the supplies you need. You can find a stained glass studio probably near you, and if not, there's always the internet, and I will provide links below to all of these supplies to make it easy for you. The first thing you need is a soldering iron. This is going to be your investment piece. So if you spend a lot of money on anything that I talked to you about today, I think it should be this, because if you use a cheap soldering iron, it's going to be really hard for you to make it look nice. And so invest in a nice soldering iron. This is just a Weller. I think this is the kind that I used to use. I haven't been that impressed with it though. If you find one that you like, let us know in the comments what soldering iron you prefer. It's important to have a soldering iron stand that's really sturdy because you don't want this to fall over. It gets extremely hot and dangerous. And so you just want it to be stable. Also, there's a sponge, typically that you can clean off your soldering iron on. I probably need a new one. The third thing you need is a glass cutter. I have these two different glass cutters, and I bought this one because I liked how it looked, but this is actually a way better glass cutter, and I'm going to tell you why. This one is a lot heavier, and this is not because it's got plastic on it. And you actually use your glass cutter to not just cut the glass, but also break it. And something that's a little bit heavier is going to break the glass easier. So I actually prefer this. This one looks cool. This one is better. And you're probably worried about the end, thinking, oh, like, is it dangerous? Is it sharp? It's not sharp at all. You can rub your finger right on it. Oil is really what cuts the glass. So there's oil inside of this, and it just runs on this little wheel across the glass and kind of breaks the surface tension, and that's what breaks the glass. It's not because it's sharp. And if you're gonna have a glass cutter, you definitely need some glass cutting oil. So pick up one of those. The next thing that you need is a good pair of Grozer Pliers, or this is what we call a breaker. So these break the glass, and you can see there's a curved side and a flat side, and the flat side goes on top and the curved side goes on the bottom, and this will break the glass after you cut it. I use these a lot. Also, I like a pair of needle nose pliers to break off tiny little pieces that I didn't quite get with these. And then I like to use these for various things. I just use nippers. There's a way to make stained glass where you don't use copper foil, and that's actually the way that I would make very large stained glass windows. So I'm just used to always having these around, but I can use them to cut the copper foil. They just come in handy. This is copper foil. This is what you're gonna wrap around the glass. It's like tape on one side, and so sticky on one side, and then you wrap it around, and this allows these pieces to be connected to each other because of this. So copper foil, and then you need some flux and a brush. So this is just paste. This is soldering paste. It looks like this if you wanna see it. That doesn't look very good. When you apply this to the copper foil, it's what makes it stick. And I will go into connecting stained glass in another video. And then this is going to be our solder. So after we put the copper foil on it and we add flux to it, brush it with a little bit of flux, this is what we melt using our soldering iron. It's very exciting and fun. And it's like you're making jewelry. It's really fun. And you melt it onto the stained glass, and it attaches to the copper and will hook those pieces together. And I'm using lead-free because I don't want to get poisoned. Let's see, what else? Sharpie. Why might you need a Sharpie? Some people, I actually like to use a gold one sometimes if I was using really dark glass. This is so when you cut out your shapes, like, let's get it. I typically start with a paper pattern, and I'll trace it onto my glass using a Sharpie because I can see it on there, and then I can cut it. Let's see, you just draw on your shape, and then you can use Windex to clean that off. Did you know that? Windex will take Sharpie off of that. Also, something that you need is some glasses. So you definitely want to protect your eyes when you're cutting glass and breaking glass. Tiny little pieces can fly. If you're going to be attaching things like this, you know, so you can hang it up like that. Then you can get some of this, and this is just wire, so it's tin wire, and you can just cut pieces off of it and kind of form it in the shape that you want. But if you want to make things that hang up or something, then you might want to get some of this. Also, I don't have this because I don't work on large stained glass windows anymore. But if I did and I was working with it a lot, you definitely could get a grinder. And that's just a little box, and it has a little grinding thing on the top, so that if your shape is a little bit off, you can use that grinder to make it perfect. So your pieces fit a lot better together. If you're gonna make a lot of stained glass, I definitely would recommend doing it. Getting a grinder. Then you need to go to the glass store and choose some glass. Choose a lot of, there's so many different kinds. Just be aware that there is some glass that's really textured, and this is a little bit harder to cut. Not much, because you can cut on the back, but the texture just adds a little challenge. So if I was beginning, I would probably start with smooth glass and then move into textured glass. I forgot one thing really quick I just wanted to show you. I am cutting it on carpet. So this is just a piece of carpet that I've cut down to kind of be the right size that will fit on my table and for most of the projects that I'm doing. And I really recommend having carpet. It just catches a lot of the little crystals, and it's kind of cushy, so it makes it really nice to have glass on it. So that's the last one I would recommend. So there's your extra one. Carpet, a small piece of carpet, and you can even find little sample pieces, maybe even a rug that's really pretty, but I mean, really, you just need it to protect the surface you're working on, and also to capture all those tiny little pieces of glass. Thank you so much for joining me today on Mr. Otter Studio. Stained glass is an investment to get these supplies, but once you have them, you can just, I mean, the possibilities are endless. It's really fun to work with, and if you haven't tried it, I highly suggest it. I think if you know someone who really is into art and they're kind of like me, they don't just focus on one thing, they're kind of like doing oil painting and watercolor, and they like bronze sculpture or whatever, then maybe they'd like stained glass too. So this might be a really fun gift for someone if you're thinking of a good Christmas present. So anyway, and again, the links are below to all of these supplies. Also, some of you know I have children's art classes online. You can find them at MrOtterStudio.com. There's watercolor. We even do a paper like kite, origami, all sorts of really fun things, melting crayons. So that's also a great gift. But if you're a parent or grandparent, it's a really fun thing for kids to have these art classes at home, and they are online, but you could choose just to print the lesson plan and not even watch the video or be online at all. So there's that option. But anyway, sorry, long outro. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me.